Welcome. My name is Sam Price, the Crypto Lifer. I've been trading for 15 years, and every single Friday afternoon, I give you a macro analysis of Bitcoin, the total market cap of cryptocurrency, total 3 cryptocurrency without Bitcoin and Ethereum. We want to see what's going on with the altcoins. We're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin dominance, Tether dominance, S&P futures, and the NASDAQ and the DXY. Let's jump into Bitcoin for starters and break it down. If you were with me last week, we discussed one main point. We said as long as Bitcoin can stay back above this key level of support on the weekly, which is 41,360, we will not go further to the downside. Bitcoin has reset on the stochastics while going sideways on the price action, and still is inside of what's called a bullish flag, a bullish rectangle, which does have a measured move to the upside. We also have a golden cross on Bitcoin right here. We also made it above a high volume node, and we're sitting at a node now. It's not like we got rejected by the node. This tells me we can likely make a move past this resistance back at least to 51,000 and then even up to here. There's not a lot of resistance to the all-time high for Bitcoin. A lot of people suggesting we could go lower. Can we? I'm open-minded to that. We can break it down. If we do go lower, look at the key levels. We'd hit that daily first at about 37.8. 38.5, 37. Then we'd hit this key level here at around, let's say, 35.6, and then we'd be testing that old $31,800, $32,000 level too as well for Bitcoin. So that's kind of on the radar. If we lose this key level, it's likely we'll drop back down to 30,000, in my humble opinion, or at least come into the chop here at $36,000, 35.8. So these are the levels that I'm watching for Bitcoin. I am not bearish until Bitcoin closes a weekly candle below 41,000, basically 300, below this yellow line. If we never close a weekly candle below this, we're not going to dump. It's very simple. So anyone that's telling you we're going to the downside, they just don't have, the whole picture. And I do TA in definitive segments, meaning like this is true now, right? Like that's not bearish. If we close the candle below it, you would have to say it's bearish. This wick is somewhat bearish, I get it. And the resistance, we did hit resistance. But the fact that we've gotten 2 green weekly candles here shows that chop is good. And chop, after a huge pump, you expect a pullback back to the 21. When you get a huge pump and then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks of sideways price action, you're usually gearing up for something big. Specifically if there's a halving, think about it. That asset's about to get cut in half. So they're going to get in your mind. They're going to take you off of what's important. Focus on the long term here. That's why I do this every Friday. Pay attention to the macro 5-day bounce off the 21 SMA and has a golden cross coming. Also a bullish sign. I don't flip bearish unless the 5-day could close a candle below its 21-day moving average. Until then, we are still good to go. All right. Moving forward, let's take a look at the daily time frame. All right, and here we go. So the daily has reset here. Previous resistance has become support, nice bounce, and we broke out of the falling wedge. We were able to call this long nicely in the trading group, key areas, and even there was a 5-minute chart that actually got us a beautiful entry before the pop. I've been trading these green candle pops for the last few days. It's been pretty awesome. Literally all week we've been able to nail Bitcoin. It's actually been a really good trading week for Bitcoin, just kind of how it happens. When moving averages get close together and tight, it usually tells me we're going to make a move up. Now, I know we talk about this idea when they get tight, we pump up to the 200 SMA, but not when they're like folding into each other. That's when they're kind of getting, we're getting, a downward spiral movement. This is when they're kind of getting close and tight, and the 200 doesn't always have to be a part of that. What this conveys to me, and I could be 100% wrong, but it conveys to me that we're starting some type of consolidation. And I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin got one pop back up here and then started to go sideways. It's showing that we may, we're looking at something like this. Now, I'm also open-minded to the fact that we could be in a diamond pattern. Diamonds will reverse back to the downside the way they came in. And that's a pretty decent diamond compared to, we skew diamonds and play with them a little bit. But this one, to me, is like a pretty good-looking diamond. Like, it's as good as diamonds get. So they are reversal patterns. This would reverse Bitcoin back to the downside. We would come back to this 200 SMA on the daily. We would come into these nodes somewhere at 36,000. There's a gap in the VRVP. You can see we're hanging on a high on the point of control here on the daily. We lose that, we're dropping back down to this chop area at about 37,000. So this is kind of like what we're looking at. Now, further on, we go into the 8 hours, like my hidden time frame. I like it. It shows a lot of cool, interesting topics. And, I'm not bearish until the 8 hour can break below the 200 SMA, right? When the 8 hour breaks below the 200, then I'll be bearish. Right now, I actually am bullish because the 8 hour broke back above its 200. It did it once here, below it here. As long as the 8 hour can hold that 200 SMA, Bitcoin could get a bounce here and further up to the top of this channel, likely hit resistance at 47,000, but it's not all bad for BTC. The 4 hour also had a chance to pump and just didn't really get above resistance though, which is showing some signs of bearishness, but this could flip up, flip down. It's really an indecision at this point. Another thing though, you don't want to see the 4 hour losing the 200, that's not the best sign. And so that takes me to here where we are watching Bitcoin on the 1 hour time frame. Just this smaller idea here, and just that's just where I stand for the weekend. On the macro analysis, though, all you have to worry about really is the fact that the weekly stays above this candle, 41,000. I have it right here where this candle opened at about 41,360. If Bitcoin stays above, if a weekly, it could go lower then. Bitcoin can go lower, but you just want to make sure that Sunday night we don't close that candle below it. So I am bullish on the weekly as long as we don't go below 41,360. And that's my macro analysis for Bitcoin with a few little smaller ideas back all the way down to that 1 hour. This weekend, you're watching this flag here on Bitcoin. See if it can maintain the 1 hour. When it loses the 200 SMA, that will also be the beginning of a possible further downtrend. All right. So pay attention and be watching out for that. Let's take a look at the total market cap in all of cryptocurrency. Beautiful, bounce that it got off of 1.476. Then it came to resistance at 1.65. Can't seem to get back above that area. Not the best sign. We want to be able to flip that and use that as support. So we did break out of the falling wedge. There is still some movement there. Daily's looking roofed, like it's hit a previous high, right? So I'm kind of looking at something like this possibly. We may be coming back down to the bottom of this channel right here. Again, it depends on Bitcoin. Bitcoin gets the move. The total market cap can too as well. We saw some hidden bullish divergence, which we're attempting to play out, but it's, backtesting that idea. It's because it has a lot of chop up here, and usually I get a clean one from there to there. Never really skipped that many. So it's like one that I haven't given, tons of years of backtesting whenever you have choppy action here on the top when you make your hidden bullish divergence. But talk about that at another time on the show. This idea here is resistance. It's just likely you're going to come back to the downside. I mean, you hit a key resistance here, and you're getting overbought on the daily and the 4 hour. Whenever the 4 hour and the daily both get overbought and you kind of have a double top here, it's likely you come down. So, there's mixed signals for Bitcoin. And, the total market cap is sitting on this, but look, it's kind of a shoulder head and a shoulder, and it doesn't look amazing. Right? If we can get a bounce here, get tight and break above, we really want to see if the total market cap can get above 161. In my lifetime, I have to be honest, there's a low, there's a high. That's a lower high. I would have to expect we make a lower low to 141. So the total market cap does not look amazing. There's a chance, though, that we could be making this and we could end up getting tighter. But total market cap, to me, doesn't look amazing. All right? One thing I also want to see is where is that 200 SMA on the 5-day chart for the total? I remember despite Bitcoin, so we got above this. This is interesting. When Bitcoin did this was the beginning of a perfect place to get in, and we had a massive rally. So I will say, as long as the total market cap doesn't go below the 200 SMA, this could be a really good time to load up. We go below it, then it's like, we're going to see way, way, way more lowers. So, we're going to go way lower. This is a really key sign for me. You remember when we went back to Bitcoin and I called my big long, I called the big long using this 200 SMA on the 5-day chart. Once we got here, I said, man, that's bullish, and we would take off from there. So the total market cap's behind on Bitcoin about 3 months, if you think about it, which means the altcoins are back by 3 months. So it's kind of interesting. We can kind of take that and say, well, then alt season should be 3 months from now. Never thought about that. We could almost back engineer alt season. You get what I'm saying? Because we can say, hey, well, if Bitcoin got above this year 3 months ago and then had a huge pop. Then the altcoins are lagging by 3 months technically, right? And what's lagging is the total market cap because it has Bitcoin in it, but why didn't it move like Bitcoin? Because the altcoins take up and they didn't get the pump. So this tells me, interesting enough, that this is at the rally point where Bitcoin was at, but in November. Pretty interesting idea. As long as we stay above this 200 SMA on the total market cap, we have a pretty good chance of staying bullish. And we have a pretty nice resistance here too, at about, or support at about 1426. Sorry, support. Okay, looking at the total market cap of all of the cryptocurrencies, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's called the total 3. Total 3 is all the altcoins. Honestly, they've been holding up pretty good. Despite even Bitcoin dumping, there's been FOMO for the hotness. There's been airdrops. There's been reasons why people want to get in. There's been, DeFi, where they actually earn a percentage back. This has got people so excited that they're, not willing to sell an altcoin as fast, even though Bitcoin takes a bit of a drop. Now, the daily is a little overbought, but it could be looping, and I like that we're in this, shoulder, head, kind of right shoulder there. And again, like Bitcoin, we could bring this up and almost make it inside of a symmetrical triangle that's just getting so tight. Like, we'll make that for you, right? So whether it's a flag or a symmetrical triangle, it's up to you. You could see it either way. But to me, it's getting tighter in the zone, and a move is going to be made for Bitcoin. 22-hour looks interesting. For the altcoins. 22-hour and the 12-hour look pretty good to me. It's interesting. The 12-hour says that the altcoins are about to get a bounce. And Ethereum is about to make a move, which is really weird. So I'd watch the 12-hour tight moving averages. This is where big things happen. I'm bullish on altcoins right now. And it says that when we come back next week, we should have a big move in the altcoins. However, we could hit resistance and dump. It's not all amazing. And what moving averages do we want to stay above? We want to get back above this 4-hour 200 SMA. Super important. We want this shoulder, head, and right shoulder to break out to the upside on these altcoins. We want to see us get back above $500 billion, really, right, even, and then use that as support on our way back up. Our target is $630 billion, and I can't wait till all the altcoins get back to $1 trillion all by themselves. But this is actually pretty bullish for me, and I didn't expect to see this. I'll be watching the 12-hour time frame for the altcoins and make sure we break back above 506. And this inverted head and shoulder and the tight moving averages with the low stoke and kind of lack of momentum there and the RSI with room to go are telling me that the altcoins could really still get some big moves here and on the week ahead. So I'm interested to see where we are next week, but it does say we could be somewhere up in here. If next week when we do this, we're at 511, 510, that's going to be a really good sign for cryptocurrency. The dollar index, a little bit of a weird move today. It was looking bearish. I have it in this giant kind of symmetrical triangle that has a measured move either up to about 111 or it, trickles down back to that one support that I have here at about 95, even bring it to 94. So, can it lose the $100 psychological support? That's what we're looking for. So if we bring on the moving averages here for a second, shrink down my MACD as such, you can see that we're getting above the 200 SMA on the daily. It's not a good sign for Bitcoin. You don't want to see that. Now, they can pump together. There's a way that the dollar and Bitcoin can pump together. They've done it. So they're not always 100%, inversely correlated, but for the most part, they are, right? Now, today, why did we get a spike in Bitcoin? Well, today, we had a Fed meeting on Wednesday. And when the Fed spoke, they basically were talking that there probably wouldn't be a rate hike this March. Then jobs data came out, and the jobs data wasn't as good as we thought. All right. We wanted 3.8. We got 3.7. We wanted a little stronger job data, right? That tells us that the economy, isn't the greatest, and also kind of puts stresses on, other parts of the market like consumer index and pricing. At this point, what it does is it makes us believe that they're not going to cut rates yet. They don't think the economy's strong enough. Now, if we had a better jobs data, they'll cut the rates. We want them to be like, okay, yeah, they didn't cut the rates. It looks like they're not going to cut rates in March, from a long story short. And because of that, the dollar got a spike. When the dollar got a spike, it created a little friction in cryptocurrency. That's why we're at about 42,860 today, even though we got a nice spike in the morning. So things were good until the jobs data came out. Once the jobs data was assessed and people saw that kind of, put a little bit of a push in the DXY, which pushed people off risk on assets. All right. DXY looks like it can go tight here. I look at it on the 3-day chart mainly, and the 3-day chart says it's about to really take a collapse to the downside. Now it's pumping now, and it's got a shoulder kind of head, right shoulder vibe there, and it is above its 200 SMA. But it's very overbought on the RSI. However, the last time it did that, it did get a big move there, so it could start to get a pump. If this gets a huge pump, it's not going to be good for Bitcoin, right? Unless we get the Bitcoin DXY pump, which could happen, but eventually they will inversely correlate again. It's only a matter of time. So I don't want to see the DXY staying above this 200 SMA. I'd like to see this hit this top, come back down, lose this trend line, and then start to fall to the downside back to 94. That would make more sense that we're in for a bigger rally for Bitcoin and the altcoins. What I will tell you is what's different about this cycle than the last two cycles, which is very interesting to me. Look at the last two cycles. The last cycles were created when the dollar dumped. So look, when Bitcoin had its halving in 2020, this was when the dollar started to collapse. And this was our beautiful bull run. The DXY was dumping. Same thing here in 2017. This was our beautiful bull run. Now, the dollar's almost dumped as much as it's dumped in both of these runs, and yet we're ready for yet another bull run. It's interesting. It looks like this time will be the run that really, really, really pushes the dollar below some key levels if it starts to collapse. So it's telling us, wow, boom. This would be one of the more massive dumps the dollar's seen. Really twice the size of the last two bull runs for Bitcoin. And that's interesting. So this is on the radar for the DXY. I'd love to see this right shoulder break to the downside. I don't want to see it get back above 104.44. That will spell some trouble in crypto. Let's take a look at Bitcoin dominance. How much money is going in from Bitcoin? And the last time we looked at it, it was this rising wedge that could break to the downside, right? Let's take a look here on the 3-day and the weekly chart for Bitcoin dominance, the bigger macro ideas. On the weekly for this, you can see that we're likely maybe never going back below 48% for now, right? And we've used this previous support as a resistance there too as well. We made some really strange chop, but for the most part, it looks like we're kind of just consolidating for our next bigger move. And it may take a few more weeks for Bitcoin to really find its stride here. A big gap in the VRBP. I believe when the halving comes, people are going to go Bitcoin crazy. Bitcoin's going to soar past its all-time high. People are going to get out of control. I think altcoins will stagger. We're going to have some issues. I see this on the table for Bitcoin on the macro on the weekly. It looks like we are on our way for another massive Bitcoin rally. This also kind of goes inside with the idea that DXY will not be able to pump. How can Bitcoin dominance moon if the DXY moons? They can't moon together, right? So what we don't want to see is this make kind of a right shoulder, have this be kind of a shoulder head, right shoulder kind of thing that could break down. We'll watch it closely, but right now, I like what I'm seeing for Bitcoin dominance, and it's getting tighter. The weekly suggests a bigger move is coming for Bitcoin dominance. On the daily, a smaller time frame, you've got this really weird, it's really not, it's harder to put it in a pattern, and it doesn't get traded as much, but you've got this kind of wedged area. Looks like you will come down, maybe give a little bit of love if we get that pullback. So we could get a little pullback for Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance, but for the most part, as long as we don't lose this trend line at 51, it's likely we're going to move back up, stay in some chop, and then a bigger move for Bitcoin dominance is occurring. This looks good for weekend trading. What I look for weekend trading for the altcoins is to see if we're overbought on the 4-hour. And not as much as I'd like. Let's see the 1-hour. A little bit. It says we can get a little bit of dumpage, but it also suggests that the whole market might kind of take a pullback. Bitcoin dominance dumps for two reasons. One, when the whole market dumps and people just run into Bitcoin to lose less money because Bitcoin won't drop as bad as their altcoins. And two, when basically the whole market just dumps and people run out of everything, right? How do you figure out the difference as you look at Tether dominance? So right now it says that, the weekend doesn't look like it's going to be great altcoin trading. We're a little oversold on Bitcoin dominance on the 4-hour time frame. We could get a little bit of a dump here. This would be nice. Let's take a look if we're going to get a pump in Tether dominance or a dump. Now, if Tether dominance also looks weak on the 1-hour, it's a good sign we could get some alt movements. And it looks like indecision. It looks like a good pump. So it doesn't look amazing. It doesn't say we're definitely going to get an alt run in the weekend. So what I do is I look for Bitcoin to slow down because of the lower volume on the weekend. And if I can see that Tether dominance wants to give away while Bitcoin dominance wants to also give away, it tells me that we may be able to trade alts for the weekend. When I see that Bitcoin dominance may want to pump and Tether dominance wants to dump, it says that we may actually go down a little bit, right? So by looking at Bitcoin dominance and Tether dominance, I can get a good idea of if I want to trade the weekends or not. Not every time, but the 1 hour is good enough, especially on like a Friday afternoon or a Thursday night, because it gives you that 8 hours of time to get that probability into the weekend. So we looked at this and we said, it looks like Tether is going to break down. The last time we were together, right, on the 26th, right here. So far, exactly what we said last week played out. We did dump to the downside here for Tether dominance. Bitcoin got a little bit of a pump. Tether coming back out. What we want to see for Tether dominance is this head and shoulder form. Shoulder, head, right shoulder. Let me make it perfect. But shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder to the downside. This will also help out. Now, we're very oversold down here and expecting a bit of a bounce. That's not great. Let's take a look at our 4-hour time frame. Our 4-hour also expecting a bit of a bounce, almost a bit of an inverted head and shoulder there. And it's attempting to find some support. Look at that. Boom. We like this to come back up, bearishly retest, and continue down. If we do get a pump up this weekend and, we get it looks like we have a little more momentum. So I'm seeing chop and sideways price action for the weekend. It doesn't look like it's going to be amazing alt trading. And it also looks like for the week ahead on the macro, we could just, and this is what I like. So the daily says we might have 4 or 5 days of Bitcoin going down, right? Maybe 41 again, 41.5, somewhere like that. But on the macro, on the 3-day chart, it says we're about to dump really hard on Tether dominance, and Bitcoin's about to pump pretty nicely. So the bigger time frames we go to, the better off it looks that Tether dominance is going to be giving, money back into cryptocurrency. So remember the last time I was here on S&P futures, we also checked the S&P for you on these weekly ideas. We went over the fact that we were in this little flag here and that we could likely break to the upside. Let me take a look at that 4-hour idea. Yeah, and then we were on the 26th right there, 26th of January right here. We had drawn this flag, so we could break out. We did get a nice little breakout, right? That was correct. We got the length of the base, but we got a rejection. Came back down, came back up, and pumped again. I'm telling you right now, they're printing money. It's interesting what happened today. Cryptocurrency moving, but you see this S&P pumping with the dollar. Pretty strange on the 4-hour time frame. Right there too. Dollar seems like it may have hit a bit of a top right now. Let's take a look at it. It's 1 hour. Yeah, there you go. So the dollar's topping out a little bit and overbought on the Stokes, telling us that, that dollar rally may be slowing down. We have 2 more hours until the market ends on the S&P here. Shoulder, head, right shoulder, I was bullish on the S&P since this divergence here, remember? I was bullish here. I called both these bottoms in October, and if you go with the Halloween effect, which is sell in May and go away, and the October effect, I told you that because we have an election season, they're going to continue to print money to zero. The Democrats have promised everything under the sun, and they owe tons of money. There's Republicans that have done the same, and what are they going to do? They're going to have to print that money. They have no choice. We're in a pretty tough spot. So with the money being printed, it's only going to continue to push risk on assets further to the upside. I see this daily winging out. I see us opening again next week, and previous pump became a support zone. I see the S&P continuing to go to the upside. I really do, and I've been saying this. I see a bullish year. I wouldn't be surprised if we're somewhere by August or September or July, we're into this, high, low $7,000 areas. The S&P is at an all-time high. They have printed the money. They're going to continue to print. They don't have a choice. I'm going to continue to tell you this. They will never get inflation to 2%. I'm going to run for office on this when I'm like 50 years old. I'm 40 now. Let it give 10 years to marinate, and then everyone's going to say, that was the guy. So I am bullish on the S&P. The daily looks like it wants to continue to the upside. Look for the 4-hour to probably consolidate back to its 21 SMA. Hang out near this 21, but I'd look for this type of consolidation. Something like this. An ascending triangle. It comes back down, comes back up, and starts to make some chop. And then I see when we come back here next week, the S&P's on its breakout, came down a little bit, broke out, or is on its way further to the upside. NASDAQ, and the same thing. I saw this cup and handle. I called the cup and handle to the upside. It's still on its way to the target. It's going to take its time on the way. I see this going to an all-time high. Or it already is at an all-time high. I was the one that told you they were going to print money to zero. When everyone got bearish here and said we were going down, I was the one that told you that we were going to reverse. Because I understand history and I understand finance and I understand that they're going to continue to print money to zero, and I understand why they're going to do it. And I know that they don't have a choice based on history. So I can bet against them and get paid. So I know for a fact they're going to print this money. I was telling you, and then I could see in the technicals, I always remember this. I showed you the hidden bullish divergence on the 3-day chart. I told you we were going to reverse. I said this was a cup and handle. We were going further to the upside. They call me Sammy Cup and Handy for a reason. Look at this. Bang. $21,000. Like, this is where I see the NASDAQ going. I believe, next week, or what the charts convey, who cares what I believe, but the charts convey fine. Same thing. A slight pullback Monday, Tuesday. Get some fear in the market. Sideways price action. But I truly believe when I'm here next week, we're just further down this flag or on our way out. And then 2 weeks from now, on two of these, we're somewhere up into the $18,000, $19,000 region. My target there is $19,395. So NASDAQ on the way for a big pump all the way until, basically, this tells me until June or July or something. We're going to continue to the upside. So I still see more upside for the NASDAQ. I could be wrong, but the charts are conveying to me that it wants to continue. And when I look at the ecosystem, what's happening and how much money they have to print, it all makes 100% sense. Like, the charts make sense, and then the actual ideas outside of the charts also make sense. Everybody, I really appreciate you. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Look for Bitcoin to get back above that $43,000 level. That would be key. I'm watching this little flag here on the 1 hour time frame. This is really going to give us, what's likely going to happen, tighten this up a little bit. I actually see a breakout for the weekend. It's looking pretty bullish for me for Bitcoin. Friday night into Saturday, but it usually is low volume, so be careful. It's not my favorite days to trade, but I do see this shoulder head, right shoulder. Prices above the 200 SMA on the 1 hour time frame. All this is a bullish sign until we break this 200 SMA on the 1 hour. That would be the beginning of bearishness. I can't become bearish until we lose that level. Everybody, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. You can find out when I post my next video. Remember, if you came to the channel, then you're already doing the right thing. Crypto is life.